All right, welcome to Night Owl Part 1 for our Cadette badge. I say Part 1 because we're going to do lots and lots of cool things during our video recording, but you'll need to join us live tonight at 8 p.m. as we go on our night hike through our neighborhood in order to complete all the steps of our badge. So, for those of you who have not met me yet, my name is Kelly Red Campbell. I'm the Outdoor Program Specialist for the Girl Scouts of Central Maryland, and I'm the Camp Director for Camp Conowingo.
Hey guys, I'm Megan Taz Campbell. I'm the Senior Camping Specialist with Girl Scouts Nation's Capital, and I'm also their Camp Director for Camp Winona. So happy to help you guys out today.
Awesome. So Taz is going to be joining us on our night hike this evening and really kind of leading us through that. So we just wanted to do introductions. But at this point, we're going to dive right into part 1 of our meeting and go on our exploration through the night sky.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get going on our badge program. So, again, we're going to be working on the Night Owl badge, the Cadette badge program. And so what we've got up on the screen for you guys right now is our badge requirements, okay? So in this meeting, we'll be working on these 3 activities in order to meet all the badge requirements. So we're going to explore nature at night. We're going to take a field trip to explore the night, both virtually together now and then live for our hike. And then we're going to meet people who work at night. Purpose being, when you've earned this badge, you'll then have uncovered the mysteries of the world after dark. All right, so let's talk a little bit about night experiences. So if you could use one word to describe the world around you at night, what would it be? Now, let's get a little creative. There's no right or wrong answer here, but let us know by commenting on this video where it's posted the one word that you would use to describe night. So I'm going to pause for just a second to give you guys an opportunity to type that in. Awesome. Thank you for doing that. So let's get started on our first step toward our night owl adventure. So nature at night. Let's talk a little bit about our senses. In this section, we're going to learn more about how our senses change from day to night. And we'll learn about the life of some nocturnal animals. So think about 3 fun facts you may have learned about nocturnal creatures. Go ahead and jot them down on a piece of paper or a notebook nearby. So we all know that it's sometimes harder to see things at night, but have you noticed anything else about your senses at nighttime? If you've been out camping before or exploring your neighborhood at night, tell us one thing in the comment box that you've noticed about the way that your senses might have changed. What was this experience like for you? Now, this might have been your first time exploring the night, be it when you were camping or walking around your neighborhood. And if that's true, no worries. In this session, we're going to be learning about how our senses of hearing and sight change at night. So let's dive in. First, we're going to explore sound. Let's take a deep breath, close our eyes, and listen closely to these nature sounds. First, I'm going to play for you the sounds of nature on a spring day, and then I'm going to play some sounds for you at nighttime. These are the types of sounds you may hear in your neighborhood now, or if you were camping at one of our camps over the weekend. While listening, try to keep track of how many different sounds you hear. sounds do you think you heard? I probably wrote down at least 4 different sounds just from the daytime. All right, so now let's close our eyes again and listen to our night sound. All right, so how about with those sounds? Did you hear more sounds or less? I think I heard more sounds. And if I'm honest with you, I think that they were louder. Anybody have any guesses on why they might be louder during the night than they were maybe during the day? Most people think they hear more at night because it's quieter, more animals and people sleeping or in their homes. But actually, everything seems louder at night because sound transmits further because of refraction of sound waves. First, sound is the vibration of air, and it's kind of a wave motion. The sound wave moves faster in hot air and slower in cold air. Sound will always move towards areas with lower temperatures. In the daytime, when the sun is shining, the air near the Earth's surface is hotter than the air above. This causes the sound waves to refract up toward the sky and away from you, kind of like the picture in Figure 1. The opposite happens at night, though. When the sun sets, the air near the ground cools, and the sound waves move towards the ground and will also refract off the ground and back to you, like in picture number 2. This closer refraction makes the nighttime sounds appear louder to your human ear. Our ability to see the world around us in clear, precise images is pretty awesome. But since we are a diurnal, meaning we're awake during the daytime species, our night vision is nowhere near as powerful as that of many animals. Which animals would you think have the best night vision in the animal kingdom? Owls? Cats? While both do have exceptionally good night vision, the answer is actually frogs. Based on current research, frogs and toads are the only animals that can see in color in almost total darkness. Now let's take a few minutes to learn more about how our vision compares to nocturnal animals.
To human eyes, the world at night is a formless canvas of gray. Many nocturnal animals, on the other hand, experience a rich and varied world, bursting with details, shapes, and colors. What is it, then, that separates moths from men? Moths and many other nocturnal animals see at night because their eyes are adapted to compensate for the lack of light. All eyes, whether nocturnal or not, depend on photoreceptors in the retina to detect light particles known as photons. Photoreceptors then report information about these photons to other cells in the retina and brain. The brain sifts through that information and uses it to build up an image of the environment the eye perceives. The brighter the light is, the more photons hit the eye. On a sunny day, upwards of 100 million times more photons are available to the eye than on a cloudy, moonless night. Photons aren't just less numerous in darkness, but they also hit the eye in a less reliable way. This means the information that photoreceptors collect will vary over time, as will the quality of the image. In darkness, trying to detect this sparse scattering of randomly arriving photons is too difficult for the eyes of most daytime animals. But for night creatures, it's just a matter of adaptation. One of these adaptations is size. Take the tarsier, whose eyeballs are each as big as its brain. giving it the biggest eyes compared to head size of all mammals. If humans had the same brain-to-eye ratio, our eyes would be the size of grapefruits. The tarsiers' enlarged orbs haven't evolved to make it cuter, however, but to gather as much light as possible. Bigger eyes can have larger openings, called pupils, and larger lenses, allowing for more light to be focused on the receptors. While tarsiers scan the nocturnal scene with their enormous peepers, cats use gleaming eyes to do the same. Cats' eyes get their shine from a structure called the tapetum lucidum that sits behind the photoreceptors. This structure is made from layers of mirror-like cells containing crystals that send incoming light bouncing back towards the photoreceptors and out of the eye. This results in an eerie glow, and it also gives the photoreceptors a second chance to detect photons. In fact, this system has inspired the artificial cat's eyes we use on our roads. Toads, on the other hand, have adapted to take it slow. They can form an image even when just a single photon hits each photoreceptor per second. They accomplish this with photoreceptors that are more than 25 times slower than human ones. This means toads can collect photons for up to 4 seconds, allowing them to gather many more than our eyes do at each visual time interval. The downside is that this causes toads to react very slowly, because they're only receiving an updated image every 4 seconds. Fortunately, they're accustomed to targeting sluggish prey.
Wow. I know that I would not enjoy having eyes as big as grapefruits, and I can imagine most of you probably feel the same. Now, later on in this session, we're going to talk a little bit more about night vision and how we can enhance our own night vision together. All right, so let's talk a little bit about nocturnal animals. So these are going to be the animals similar to the ones mentioned in the video that are awake and active most at night. Now, I bet you can name at least one nocturnal animal. Now, I'm sure many of you thought of the animals shown here on this picture. Naturally, dark night skies have a big role to play in supporting wildlife and ecosystems. Many living things need and have evolved to adapt to darkness. We call these living things nocturnal. Many mammals, bugs, and amphibians are nocturnal. Some come out at night to escape the heat of the day. Others need the night to hunt or avoid predators. Animals such as cats, owls, and rodents have developed keen hearing, smell, and dark adapted vision in order to navigate at night. Highways, habitat, and skies lit with artificial light interfere with the vision, foraging, and dispersal activities of many mammals. Humans too need natural darkness for sound, sleep, and good health. Cool blue-white light at night from sources such as LEDs, computer, or cell phone screens interfere with the body's circadian rhythms by suppressing melatonin and increasing cortisol, a brain chemical released when we are stimulated or excited. High cortisol levels make it difficult to fall asleep or experience deep sleep, which our immune systems need to fight illnesses and disease. So let's talk a little bit about mammals. Bats. Some people think bats are blind, but that's not the case. Bats' eyes are small and sometimes poorly developed, but they work just fine. Megabats, larger bats that include fruit bats, search for food using sight and smell. Microbats, which include the smaller, familiar snub-nosed bats, mainly hunt by echolocation. Using this system, bats send out sound waves and listen for the echo to bounce off insects and other objects. Many people are also afraid of bats, but like bees, we need them. Bats are also pollinators. According to the U.S. Forest Service, bats are responsible for dispersing seeds that grow into bananas, avocados, and nearly 300 other plant species. I personally really like bats because they chow down on thousands of insects each night, including mosquitoes. What better pest control can you ask for? All right, now let's talk about raccoons, the masked bandit of your neighborhood. Raccoons are round, fuzzy creatures with bushy tails and 5 toes on their front paws that act like human hands. Raccoons are not very social creatures. They are nocturnal and sleep during the day. During the winter, they tend to sleep more, but they don't hibernate in the traditional sense. They simply sleep while their bodies live off of stored fat. They lose around 50% of their body weight during the winter. Though these animals will sometimes resort to eating garbage in your neighborhood, raccoons are actually very clean creatures. They are known to wash their food in streams and even dig latrines in areas they frequent regularly. Why do you think raccoons have their distinguishing black mask? One theory is that the black mask around a raccoon's eyes helps deflect glare and actually helps with their night vision. Red foxes. Red foxes live around the world in many diverse habitats, including forests, grasslands, mountains, deserts, and even my neighborhood. They also adapt well to human environments such as farms, suburban areas, and even large communities. The red fox's resourcefulness has earned it a legendary reputation for intelligence and cunning. The red fox is mostly nocturnal, although it will sometimes venture out in the day. The red fox, unlike other mammals, hears low-frequency sounds very well. It can hear small animals digging underground and will frequently dig in the dirt or snow to catch prey. The fox stalks its prey much like a cat. It gets as close as it can and then pounces and chases its prey. Red foxes usually feed on rodents, rabbits, birds, and other small game, but their diet can be as flexible as their home habitat. Foxes will eat fruit and vegetables, fish, frogs, and even worms. If living among humans, foxes will opportunistically dine on garbage and pet food. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about insects. So the Luna moth, found only in North America, starts out as a very hungry caterpillar. Newly hatched, this caterpillar constantly munches on the leaves of walnut, hickory, sweet gum, and paper birch trees. After about a month of filling up on these plants, the caterpillar builds a cocoon. The insect lives inside it for about 3 weeks and then emerges as the moth. The eye-catching critter is easily recognizable because of its wings, but that's not the Luna moth's only interesting feature. The insect doesn't have a mouth or a digestive system. That's because it only lives for about a week after leaving the cocoon, and it doesn't ever eat. Although Luna moths don't have an appetite, they're a favorite snack for bats. To protect themselves from these predators, the moths spin the tails of their wingtips in circles. This disorients the bats so much that the moths are often able to make a getaway. I guess you could say they're winging it. Lightning bugs. Running around the backyard on warm summer nights in an attempt to catch fireflies is a fun pastime. These insects, also known as lightning bugs, can light up the night with their magical glow, but what actually makes them flash? They are actually beetles. Their name comes from the Greek lampion, which means to shine. The light that some fireflies produce is extremely efficient. In fact, it's the most efficient light in the world. It is generated from a chemical reaction inside their bodies, and nearly 100% of the chemical reaction's energy becomes light. Most people think fireflies only have yellow light, but they can have green or orange lights too. Occasionally, fireflies put their efficient light to good use in flashy displays. You can see this phenomenon during the first few weeks of June in the Great Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. If you can't make it there in person, there are plenty of videos online. Fireflies use their lights to attract fellow fireflies and to deter predators. The firefly blood contains a defensive, which makes them unappetizing to potential hunters. Once predators get a bite, they associate the unpleasant taste with firefly light and avoid attacking lightning bugs in the future. So now let's move on to birds. You are most likely to hear an owl hoot at night because they are nocturnal birds. They have big eyes and wide pupils that allow them to spot their prey. Unlike people's eyes, their eyes don't move in their sockets, but the owls can swivel their heads to look in almost any direction. Their short but wide wings allow them to fly through the forest, and their soft feathers help them approach prey very quietly. Pictured here is a great horned owl. It is one of the most common owls in North America, found in a range of habitats that includes forests, swamps, deserts, tundra edges, tropical rainforests, cities, suburbs, and parks. If you live in North America, there's a good chance you've heard the deep, soft, stuttering hoots of this owl. This owl uses its hoot to advertise its territory. It can also make a variety of other sounds, including whistles, barks, shrieks, hisses, coos, and even wavering cries. Pictured next to the great horned owl is a barn owl. Ghostly pale and normally strictly nocturnal, barn owls are silent predators of the night world. Lanky with a whitish face, chest, and belly, and fluffy upper parts, this owl roosts in hidden, quiet places during the day. By night, they hunt on buoyant wing beats in open fields and meadows. You can find them by listening to their eerie, raspy calls, quite unlike the hoots of other owls. Next up on our animal tour is amphibians. Two amphibians you may have heard at night but not seen are the gray tree frogs and spring peepers. You can hear both in the night sounds we played earlier, and I know that I hear them each summer at camp. Some amphibians can detect light levels 100 times dimmer than humans. So artificial light from street lights, houses, and more can sometimes disturb their habitat, and prolonged exposure to bright lights affects their hormones, skin coloration, and reproduction. Now, the gray tree frog's color changes in response to its environment and activities, and can range from green to gray or even brown. The upper surface of the body has a blotchy pattern that resembles lichen or tree bark. They hide in tree holes, under bark, and rotten logs, under leaves, and under tree roots when sleeping during the day. At night, they search for insects in trees where they can climb vertically or move horizontally with specially adapted toe pads. Tree frogs have a distinctive song that they use to communicate at night. Spring peepers, according to National Geographic, are to the amphibian world what the American robins are to the bird world. As their name implies, they begin emitting their familiar sleigh bell-like chorus right around the beginning of spring. Found in wooded areas and grassy lowlands near ponds and swamps, these tiny, well-camouflaged amphibians are rarely seen. But the mid-March crescendo of nighttime whistles from amorous males is for many a sign that winter is finally over. They are nocturnal creatures hiding from their many predators during the day and emerging at night to feed on such delicacies as beetles, ants, flies, and even spiders. I also heard that spring peepers can allow most of their body to freeze over winter and still survive hibernation to emerge in the spring. I think that I'd sing pretty loudly too, and when I finally felt happy and warm. So, what do you think are the 3 coolest things that make nocturnal animals unique? Go ahead and let us know by typing your answer in the comment box where this video is posted. All right, so now let's talk about some people who work at night and get to meet them a little bit. Working at night can be both exciting and difficult for humans. As diurnal animals, we really are designed to perform at our peak during the daylight hours. You may know some people in your life who call themselves night owls, or maybe some people who call themselves morning birds. These nicknames come from the traits humans demonstrate that are like the diurnal and nocturnal animals. Night owls stay up late like our friends the barn owl and the great horned owl we just saw. And morning birds start the day early and excited like robins and mourning doves. In tonight's meeting, we're going to hear from a few professionals about their work at night. Take a moment now to jot down on a piece of paper some questions you might like to ask these professionals. Some questions you may think of are, what do you do in your job? How is the night shift different from the day shift? What is the hardest part about the night shift, and what do you do about it? While you think of your questions, let's take a look at A Night in the Life of Astronomer with Dr. Becky Smethurst, an Oxford astrophysicist.
Hooked on a feeling.
Wow, Dr. Becky sure does make it look fun staying up all night while looking at the stars and collecting data. But let's take a closer look at what it takes to stay up all night and explore the universe. We'll now meet astronomy ranger Kelly Ricks from Bryce Canyon National Park. Ranger Kelly really loves her job and working at night. Listen closely to see if you can discover why.
My name's Kelly Ricks, and I'm an astronomy ranger at Bryce Canyon National Park. People come to Bryce and they want to see a dark sky. They want to see the Milky Way. They want to see the planets and the stars and all of that. The better that they know that, the more deeply they can see it, the more meaningful experience they go home with, and the more they start to notice how they might be able to affect their own skies at home for the better. When people come to Bryce Canyon, it's my job as an astronomy ranger to introduce them to the sky, to help put themselves in the context of, we're living on a planet, orbiting a star, in the outer arm of the Milky Way galaxy, which you can see stretching from horizon to horizon many times throughout the year at Bryce Canyon. And when we bring out the telescopes, it's not about the technology. It's about looking deeper into that already very, very deep sky. I love watching the Milky Way rise above the rim. Head out to Sunrise Point is maybe my favorite spot. There are times we'll be out with the telescopes looking at planets and stars and nebulae, and a visitor will come up to me and say, "Hey, what are those clouds that are rising over there?" And I say, "That's the Milky Way." And they'll just be speechless. My first experience looking through a telescope always comes back to me. When I first looked at Jupiter and saw its moons, I remember how excited I was, how how completely my mind was blown. And I am giving that experience to visitors who come here. And I'll see that light in their eyes when I tell them what it is they're looking at, how far away it is. And that, to me, is such a thrill. Giving other people that same magical experience that I had when I very first looked through a telescope. When I get kids coming up to my telescope, I absolutely love it because they've got these great, sharp, observant eyes. Kids see so many more things than adults do frequently. Kids will see color so much more richly. They'll describe it more vividly. They have such great imaginations. When you go out and experience a beautiful dark sky at Bryce Canyon, you're experiencing yourself in a new context. When I talk about being on a planet, orbiting a star in the galaxy, where else do you get that sense of orientation, that expanded sense of what it means to be home on planet Earth? On the one hand, it makes you feel very, very tiny. And on the other hand, it makes you feel like something really special, something that's part of an unimaginable expanse of the universe.
Awesome. All right. So now that we watched Ellie's video, could you guys really feel the passion that she has for what she does and talking about the night sky with visitors to Bryce Canyon? It kind of oozed out of her how much she really loves talking about the night sky and all the mysteries that we can find up there. But now for our last interview of sorts, we're actually going to watch as a high school student interviews Dr. Letitia McLaughlin, who's an astronomer at North Carolina State University for the Science House.
Hi, I'm Holly Tobias, sophomore at Northern High School, and I'm here with Letitia McLaughlin, who's studying to be an astrophysicist at NC State. Why did you decide to become an astronomer?
I decided to become an astronomer when I was in 7th grade, and my mother bought me my first telescope. It wasn't much, it was very tiny, but just that opened the door and got me interested in astronomy. Mm-hmm. And after that, I decided to pursue it and read lots of books about it, and then I decided that's what I loved and enjoyed.
How would you describe what you do as an astronomer?
As an astronomer, I use telescopes and binoculars and even the naked eye to look up into the sky and observe things like the stars, the position of the stars, the planets whenever they're out throughout the year, and also other things like galaxies and such that I can see.
Wow. As a young girl, what were your favorite subject in school and why?
Surprisingly, in high school, my favorite subject was biology. But whenever I got to college, I decided that I really loved math and I really loved science. So I combined the two and I got physics. And that's why now I use physics to explain the universe and astronomy.
Oh. In high school, what helped you prepare for college and attaining your degree?
In high school, I wasn't decided about my major. I knew that I loved science and I knew that I loved math. So I just did my best. I wasn't the best athlete, nor was I the top of the class, but I did my best, and that hard work helped me to prepare for everything that I would endure in college.
What are you most interested in astronomy?
In astronomy, I'm actually going to go into research with supernova remnants and things of that nature. So what is the supernova remnants composed of? What is the nature of, after a star explodes and becomes a supernova, what does it become?
How did you make your decision about which college to attend, and what were your choices? How did you get the money to go to college?
Well, I definitely knew at that point that I wanted to pursue a science, and so I found a university that had a big concentration in science. My two top choices were UNC Wilmington and also NC State University. I decided to attend UNC Wilmington first because of the small class size. And once I got my graduate degree, I decided to keep my education in the state, and so I went to North Carolina State University.
As a college student, did you ever feel unable to compete with male students pursuing the same degree?
Not at all, not at all. In physics, there is a large number of male students compared to female students. But I think because of that, female students are more welcomed, and it makes no difference as far as learning is concerned, whether you're male or female.
For college and attaining your degree?
In high school, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I knew that I liked math and science, but I hadn't pinpointed it to a major. So I just did my best. I wasn't the best athlete, nor was I top of the class, but I did my best in every subject, and that prepared me for the hard work that I would have to do in college.
What advice can you give young girls who strive to become scientists?
My advice to young girls who strive to become scientists is to be persistent. Science is not an easy subject, and so study hard, but at the same time, make sure you give yourself lots of breaks. You don't want to become too focused so that you burn out easily.
Okay. Could you tell me a bit about the demonstration you're about to perform?
Being an astronomer, we study lots of things, and one of those is comets. And I've noticed whenever I talk with people that lots of people have a misconception about the composition of comets. So today I'm going to actually make a comet so that we can see exactly what it's made of.
That sounds very interesting.
Great. All right. So now that we've interviewed 3 different women who work at night, I hope that you were able to get your questions answered. And now we're going to go, it's a slightly weird transition, but we're going to go back to talking a little bit about night vision. So you'll remember back early when we started, and we talked a little bit about how nocturnal animals can see better at night. But now let's talk a little bit about our night vision. So first up, why do pirates wear eye patches? All right, I admit this might seem a little out of context, but if you've ever been to camp in the summer and talked with me in the dining hall or maybe during a program, you know that I love learning about random fun facts. And I think pirate eye patches are pretty cool. Now, why do you think pirates wear eye patches? Go ahead, take a minute and jot down your answers to this very important question. All right. Is it a fashion statement? Is it because they're missing an eye? Is it a pirate uniform? A lot of people think that pirates wear eye patches because they're missing an eye. Maybe they forgot they had a hook on their hands while they were putting in their contacts. That would definitely hurt. Others think that it's a fashion statement. The eye patches make the pirates look more dashing or scary. But I can see some of you might have already guessed it. Usually only the smartest of pirates wear eye patches because eye patches actually help pirates develop night adapted vision all day long.
Why did pirates wear eye patches? The eye patch that pirates used to wear was not a fashion statement or a cover for a missing eye. In movies, we usually see pirates wearing eye patches. The first impression these patches make is a missing eye or a style statement peculiar to pirates. But no, it was none of them. It was a clever trick of some of the most intelligent pirates. A recent study says that the human eye adapts to light within seconds of coming out from the dark. But it takes almost 25 minutes to become used to the dark if you're coming in from bright light. This phenomenon is known as the adaptation of eye. Pirates had to live among light and dark. One minute they are on deck, and the next they need to go below deck. So, some clever ones of them used to cover one of their eyes. Whenever they had to go into the dark, they used to shift the eye patch from one eye to the other. The eye that already being used to the darkness helped them seeing clearly even in the dark. Interesting, isn't it?
When we all think of pirates, we think of them wearing eye patches, but technically there is no historical record that says that this is fact. Regardless, when you dress as a pirate, keep on wearing that piratey eye patch. You'll actually look like one smart pirate when you do. Another great activity to try with your family at home is exploring your taste and smell at night. We've learned that our vision and hearing both change at night, but what about taste and smell? After trying the night vision activity, try to explore these senses with your family as well. The best way to do this is with an orange. If you have an orange at home, have someone in your family step about 5 feet away from you and feel the orange, or start feeling the orange. Can you smell it? Now, do this during the daytime to see if they need to be closer to you to smell it. Of course, once you peel the orange, then you can taste it. That's the best part. If you don't have any oranges, maybe try another scented item, an onion, garlic, or herb, or maybe even a lemon. You could also try pouring a glass of Kool-Aid, lemonade, or fruit juice and seeing how the smells and tastes are different. Can you smell it from further away, or do they need to be closer? When you get done with these experiments, you're going to seem like a night science genius. Now, let's head off on our night field trip. All right, so let's head out on our field trip to explore the night sky. This is one of my favorite parts of this badge. Here we'll learn about one of the most easily recognizable constellations, Ursa Major, which contains the Big Dipper. When we go out on our live night hike, we'll try and see this together. You can see Ursa Major all year round in the Northern Hemisphere, where we are, but it does move into different placements for each season. Regardless of its location in the sky, it always points to Polaris, the North Star. Polaris currently sits right about the North Pole and marks the north in the sky. You can also see that Polaris sits at the end of the Little Dipper. I'm sure many of you have heard the song or read the book, Follow the Drinking Gourd, in school. The song and the constellation play a large role in American history and folklore. The Drinking Gourd song was supposedly used by an Underground Railroad operative to encode escape instructions and a map. These directions helped fleeing slaves to make their way north from the southern plantations to the safety of the northern states. If you look closely at the Big Dipper, it's easy to see how it resembles a drinking gourd, which is a hollowed-out gourd used to drink water. Now, it's not easy to see or imagine the whole Ursa Major constellation, known as Great Bear. Even less people are familiar with the legend or story of how Ursa Major and Ursa Minor came to be. Next, we're going to learn a little from Daryl Keith from the U.S. Little Rock Fort College of Arts, Letters, and Science. And he's going to take us on a deeper look into the tales of both dippers.
Hi everyone, I'm Daryl Heath with the UA College of Arts, Letters, and Sciences. Welcome to the night sky. If you pay any attention at all to the sky, then you'll have no doubt noticed that it's always in motion, always changing. As one season gives way to another, we see a given set of constellations disappear only to be replaced by others. And from night to night, we see stars rise in the east, move across the sky, and then set in the west. Of course, all this apparent motion is due to the Earth moving, and not the stars. The seasonal changes in our sky occur because the Earth is orbiting the Sun, and the nightly motions are due to the Earth's spin upon its axis. But here in the Northern Hemisphere, we can see a section of the sky that, while always in motion, in some ways stays pretty much the same. Now, a quick way to see this is to look at time-lapse photos or videos that show star trails. A star trail is a long exposure photograph of stars that captures the apparent motion of the sky in the form of long streaks of starlight. Facing towards the south, we see the stars appear to rise in the east, and then travel in great arcs across the sky before finally setting in the west. However, looking towards our northern sky, we see the trails form a set of concentric circles of starlight. These stars never rise or set as seen from middle northern latitudes, and we refer to them as being circumpolar. The southern hemisphere has its own set of circumpolar stars that never rise or set as well. If you happen to be directly at either the North or the South Pole, then all the stars you see at night are circumpolar. Standing along the equator, and there's no such things as circumpolar stars in your sky. It's only in the mid-latitudes that you have a group of stars that never rise or never set. In this episode of The Night Sky, we're going to look at the Northern Hemisphere's most famous and most important circumpolar stars, and they reside in the constellations of the Big and Little Bears, Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. But you might know them better as the Big and Little Dipper. What you may not know is that they're not official constellations. They're called asterisms. These are unofficial star patterns formed from the stars found in one or more of the constellations that are officially designated by the International Astronomical Union, the governing body in astronomy, when it comes to standardizing the names of things in the night sky. Now, while you and I see a dipper when we look at these stars, not everyone else does. In Ireland and the United Kingdom, these stars are seen as a plow, while in northern England, some folks recognize it as a cleaver. Throughout the British Isles and parts of Western Europe, other people see a wagon or wain. In Chinese sky lore, we see a celestial bureaucrat and a cart being followed by two loyal petitioners, while in Burma, other folks look up and see a giant prawn in the heavens. According to Greek mythology, the Big Bear was once a beautiful woman named Callisto, who catches the eye of the king of the gods himself, Zeus. From their union comes a baby boy named Arcas. But Zeus's wife, Hera, finds out about her husband's indiscretion, and in a fit of jealous rage, she changes Callisto into a bear. Years later, Callisto, while roaming the forest in her bear form, sees a young man armed with a bow and arrow hunting in her part of the woods. She recognizes the youth as her own son, Arcas, and she raises up on her hind legs and walks toward him with her arms spread wide to embrace him. Arcas only sees a large ferocious bear coming towards him, and he notches his bow and fires off an arrow at the bear. Now fortunately, Zeus sees what's happening, and he stops the arrow in mid-flight. Once Zeus explains the situation, Arcas demands that his mother be turned back into a human once more. Unfortunately, Zeus cannot undo Hera's magic, and to protect mother and son, he transforms Arcas into a bear as well. Seizing the bears by their tails, he slings them around and around, and then hurls them into the sky, where they can live out the rest of their lives among the stars. Now, when you sling a bear by the tail into the sky, something must give. And this explains why it is that when you look at depictions of Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, you'll notice that both bears have very long tails, and not the short stubby ones that we see in all other bears. Now, Hera was still not happy about things, so she arranged it that while the bears circle around the sky, they would never be able to refresh themselves by swimming in the oceans of the earth. This part of the story explains why it is that for most parts of the Northern Hemisphere, we never see the bears dip below the horizon. Ursa Major, the Big Bear, is the third largest constellation in our sky, occupying some 1,280 square degrees upon the sky. That's about the size of 2 full hand widths, held out at arm's length. It is one of the original 48 constellations described by Greek astronomer Ptolemy back in the 2nd century AD. The constellation of Ursa Major is made up of about 20 stars, but there are only 7 that you'll be able to see from most city locations, and they make up the asterism of the Big Dipper. 3 stars for the handle, 4 for the bowl. Starting with a...
Awesome. All right, so now that we've learned a little bit more about the sky, let's dive a little bit further and see what we can discover. So, most of us are familiar with air, water, and land pollution, but did you know that light can also be a pollutant? In most situations, light helps us see. But when it comes to looking at the night sky, light is actually a kind of pollution. Less than 100 years ago, everyone could look up and see a spectacular starry night. Now, millions across the globe will never experience the Milky Way from their home. where they live. Light hampers our view of some of life's most spectacular stars, planets, and even galaxies. Normally, about 2,500 individual stars are visible to the human eye without using any special equipment. But because of light pollution, you actually see just about 200 to 300 from today's suburbs and fewer than a dozen from a typical city. You can see on the screen just how much light pollution we have near our big cities around Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York. Because of the light pollution around us, we join large groups of Americans who can't see the dazzling Milky Way with the naked eye. Even at our camp properties, where there's less light pollution, the skies are still too light to see the faint galaxies. To see it, you need to live far away from any big city. We saw an example of night skies in one of our videos where Ranger Kelly showed us the beauty of the Milky Way at Bryce Canyon National Park. Here, you can also see what it would look like if we cut out as many lights as we could. All around us, this could be what we see in our skies. While we usually only think about light pollution and its effects on us, it's also good to keep in mind our nocturnal animal friends. Remember, the light pollution can affect frogs who see 100 times better in the night than we do. Also, research shows that lots of nighttime light can harm migrating birds. Sometimes they fly over cities and can become confused by the brightness, flying in circles until they drop from exhaustion. Sea turtles, too, need dark beaches for nesting and won't approach bright lights. And baby sea turtles use the light of the moon to follow their way to the ocean. Bright lights along the shore can lead them in the wrong direction. Even with some light pollution in your area, you should still be able to see the stars outlining our friend, the fallen queen, Cassiopeia. Now, as we said, she is one of the most famous constellations and is easily recognized by the W shape. On top of being one of the original 48 constellations, it's also one of the 88 modern constellations recognized by the International Astronomical Union. The zigzag-shaped circumpolar asterism consists of 5 primary stars, 2 of which are the most luminous in the Milky Way galaxy. Its brightest star, otherwise known as CAF, is a yellow-white F-type giant with a brightness that varies from a magnitude of 2.25 to 2.31 with a period of 2.5 hours. Cassiopeia is located in the northern sky opposite of the Big Dipper, Ursa Major. It's bordered by Camelopardalis, Cephalus, Lactura, Andromeda, and Perseus. Another constellation you may be able to see from your home is Draco the Dragon. The Draco constellation also lies in the northern sky, and it's one of the largest constellations. The constellation's named after Landon, the dragon that guarded the guardians of the Hesperides in Greek mythology. Draco has a lot in common with its neighbors, Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. Draco is also one of the original 48 Greek constellations, and it is a circumpolar constellation. Remember that circumpolar constellations rotate around Polaris and never set below the horizon for us here in the Northern Hemisphere. The constellation Draco is associated with several myths, but the most frequent myth involves the 12 labors of Hercules, which help tie in the neighboring constellation Hercules. Landon was the dragon that guarded the golden apples in the gardens of the Greeks. The golden apple tree was a wedding present to Hera when she married Zeus. She planted the tree in her garden on Mount Atlas and tasked Atlas's daughters with guarding it. She also placed the dragon Ladon around the tree so that they could not pick any of the apples from it. As part of his 12 labors, Hercules was asked to steal some golden apples from the tree. He killed Ladon with his poison arrows and took the apples. Saddened by the dragon's death, Hera placed its image in the sky among the constellations. Draco is usually depicted coiled around the North Pole with 1 foot of Hercules on its head. When you head outside, either tonight with us or later on, be sure to look for all of our constellations, as well as any planets, and maybe some meteor showers. All right, friends. So we're coming towards the end of our Night Owl Part 1. Now it's time for a little homework. I know, this isn't school. Why would I be giving you homework? But as part of the badge that we can't really do together, you need to design your own constellation and write the legend of how it came to live in the sky. So we've talked a little bit about some of the myths and other constellations tonight, and now it's time for you to put on those creativity hats and come up with your own. It could be about your dog, your favorite animal, anything that comes to mind, write your own constellation. And then we would love for you to share those with us, either as part of the comments on this video or email them to us. We would love to be able to see some of your constellation stories and learn all about them after you write them. Now, don't forget, as part of our badge work, you'll need to join us for our live night hike, which is airing on Wednesday at 8 p.m. on Facebook. So please tune in and join us. But at this point, I'm going to go ahead and say good night. Thank you for tuning in for part 1 of our Night Owl badge. It was great to have you with us on this journey. I hope you learned lots of fun and interesting facts. And as always, since it's a pre-recorded video, you can watch it over and over again to relearn any of those facts or teach anybody about your amazing nighttime science experiments. And then we will see you tonight at 8 o'clock for our live night hike to complete the final steps of our Night Owl Cadet badge. Thanks so much.